What is your highest purpose in life? What is the reason why you incarnated onto this earth? Did you come here to go to what's available and to consume the entertainment of other people living their dreams? Are you the central player in your myth? That's what this episode's about. It's about your dream, the vision you have for your life, your purpose and your mission, your guidance systems, the exchange from the disempowered conditions story, the limiting belief structures, and shifting over into a empowered story, a more liberated way of being in this world, in accordance with universal principles, where you are, pardon me, operating from your optimal decision making process and energetic design. That beautiful place in the middle where you're serving what the world needs, what you love to do, what you're good at, and getting paid for it. In this episode, I'll share with you a simple formula that I teach my coaching clients and much more information because just like the last episode, I'll be sharing my personal story interwoven with the teachings of this episode. Let's dive right in. My first question is, what is your dream? And I like the word dream here because what is the dream? The dream here does not represent when you fall into slumber in an unconscious state. This is the dream of reality. All the world is an illusion in some sense and some perspective, yeah? It's not the ultimate ground of being. It's not the absolute eternal. This is the finite relative reality, and it is but a dream. Here today, gone tomorrow. One day we may wake up, shifting timelines. It is malleable, like the Matrix. It is programmable, and we have programming. So when we look to what is our dream, it's the vision that we have for ourselves. And I'm an encourager, you could say, for individuals to have their own dream, to be connected, I like to say resourced and source, the highest source of information from the soul, incarnated and passed on through various levels of mind, which I may talk about the scaffolding of lower to higher mind as I see it, but passed on from the soul down to the material mind into this here feeling, thinking moment of physicality, of sensation to be realized and manifested. We have a capacity because we're made in the image of God, you could say, with our creative ability, with our creative capacity to dream a future and to call it forth, to attract it from the ethers, from the Wuji, the absolute or ultimate emptiness, like the impregnable universe, the void, which is not the empty void, but it's the mother of all things. Madre Terra, not just Mother Earth, the mother of all things. So we have a capacity to dream and to have a vision for our life. And yeah, let's get into my scaffolding of mind because it'll give us a guidepost here. The way that I see things, and you don't have to see things the way I do. Please don't take anything by the spoonful that I offer, though I do make a really good soup. I see the scaffolding of mind as we're all one. So there's one mind. We could call that capital MIND. And then there's kind of like a strata of lower minds, all the way down to your material mind. Material mind is the most familiar, yeah? Most familiar, it deals with the processing of the five senses in this moment of experiential reality as you know it through the body-mind complex. Now, your material mind isn't connected to your infinite, eternal soul that knows all things. It's not connected to the Great Spirit, which knows all things, is above and beyond all things. So your material mind is like the small mind. No capitals in that mind, yeah? But as we scaffold up, and this isn't necessarily in a hierarchical order, but in some sense it is, there's your higher mind, which we could call many things, but we can say your imagination. Your imagination is beyond your material mind. It's not in the five sense reality, yeah? Now, above this is the archetypes, the fundamental energies that help to bring about like an energetic blueprint or scaffolding of form to what we know as concepts or ideas that, though they have different manifestations when they come into the material realm of manifested dream life, they have a same essence, like the king and the mother. They have an underlying, you could say, like energetic and elemental structuring, yeah? This is all part of your mind. You may experience it in your own personal way and experience others in this way, but all part of your larger mind. And then there's the higher beings that are once again a part of you, though you may experience them as outside of you. You see an angel, you see Babaji, you see Shiva, you see any others. These are all aspects of you. But from your perspective, from the body-mind complex, which you're having the experience of, and there are times when you have an experience perhaps of being beyond your personal local egoic center of the body-mind complex and experience things from a different, we could say a higher perspective, yeah? But guides, guardians, angels, all of these exist at a higher level, we could say scaffolding, in your higher mind. And then above that, once again, not necessarily hierarchical, so we could go into debate about that. I haven't really sketched it out in that way. Not really needed to in my life. But higher above that, we could say, just for an exploration, is the soul. And then above your soul, your individual soul is the oversoul. Don't really need to get into that at this point. And then above the oversoul, we're coming close. I mean, we can always add an infinite layer of things in between these, yeah? But we're getting close to spirit, pure consciousness, great spirit. So there's in this scaffolding, like a downstream of energy from pure consciousness, unmanifested, into an individualization. Soul and oversoul still one, like a drop in the ocean. There's still the ocean. There's still pure consciousness in some sense, yet there's a slight different quality to their energy and experience as they've now taken on a new, and there's a certain information transfer because your personal, individualized, eternal soul connected to spirit, that's like your silver cord up to God, yeah? And this can speak through your higher mind, such as the angels and the ancestors. This can speak through your imagination. Your imagination is not just made up things spoken in that kind of diminutive way. It is your connection to your higher mind, where you can pull from archetypal forms that speak deeply through perhaps art that you create. There's a recognition in a lot of art done by artists. Maybe they don't even know what they're doing. They don't need to know. That they're pulling from something deeper, like the wellspring of our collective consciousness, and they can channel this information and energy into art, perhaps through the medium of paint or song. We can pull from these aspects of our mind. Our imagination is one of the closer things to the mind of God, yeah? Because just like the mind of God, if you can imagine it, it can become real. And the imagination potentially has no limitation. Just like your physical system, always expanding, there's a current limit of exploration, you know, the known boundary of what you have experienced so far. But on and on can that expand infinitely, 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 yeah? So why do I share all this when I'm talking about the dream? My understanding of the creation of our highest path, I'm saying these words in as best as I can in a very specific way, the highest path of our dream, like our dharmic purpose, our highest purpose. We can have many different missions in life. We can have many different decisions we make. And I choose to look at them as being hierarchical in some sense, in that there's an optimal decision. This is an idea I got from Paul Chek, and a lot of this work is in some sense influenced at one stage in my journey from the scaffoldings and teachings of Paul Chek. And he talks about the optimal decision being not the suboptimal, which would be what's usually just best for you. It's usually more selfishly oriented or limited in some sense. And he also talks about the doing nothing, which can be the optimal decision if you don't know what to do next and you're gathering information, yeah? But the optimal decision is what's best for you, generally what's best for everybody around you. He would say your dream team. I would say what's best for your family, what's best for your community, what's best for the earth, what's best for the cosmos. So there's a way we can make decisions that are best for all those parties, yeah? For all of our relations. The shortest indigenous prayer. All of our relations. What does that mean? It means when we speak, this is something that we would say at the end of it. We would say, all my relations. This is what I have said, and I'm saying this unto all my relations. And this is not just talking about our brethren, our brothers and our sisters. It's not just talking about those who can hear it with their ears. It's talking about our brothers, the trees, our friends, the two-legged, the four-legged, earth and sky, the elemental beings, all of our relations. And that's a powerful way to end a saying, yeah? Because if I'm just speaking to you, I might be limited in how I speak to you. I might be just talking to you and thinking about me and you and our relative relationship, yeah? But if I'm saying something and I'm saying it unto all of our relations, meaning what I say my great-great-grandmother's going to hear, what I say my children are going to hear, that's a great, I don't know if this is the right word, but a qualifier for speaking some true and powerful speech. If my words are going to echo into eternity to be heard 7 generations above and below, there's a power to that. So this is the optimal decision in the highest path. And why I'm mentioning all this, taking you on a little route from where we first departed when I went for the higher mind conversation and the scaffolding that I have, is when I talk about the dream, there are many things that we can dream. We can have many visions for our life. And in my understanding, we want to, I'm slowing down to be careful with my words here. I desire to walk my highest path of love, dharma, and excitement. So of the many things that I can dream, I'm careful and as best as I can in my current level of knowing to choose a dream that is most representative of that highest path so that I can live in accordance with my energetic design, which we'll get into later. There's a concept in, I believe it's Japanese, and I don't even know if I should pronounce it because I've never actually heard the word said. It's spelled Ikigai. And this is the idea which I talked a little bit about in the beginning when I talked about having something you're good at, having something you love, having something the world needs, and having something you're paid for, which they say is a mix of profession, passion, mission and vocation. So there's a certain way to look at qualifying our dream so that it's, you could say, an adequate dream to be all encompassing, to activate our full potential, to be a worthy offering for this life. And I don't mean for that to sound judgmental, but in my experience, I have experienced my life and my dreams and my desires and their manifestations, and I have seen that many of mine have been selfish, and it has helped me to experience what it is to know a selfish dream and to know a more pure intention dream and the effect that it has and the goodness that it has. I don't know if this is a good example, but my mind's going here. I used to masturbate to porn, and for some time that gave me a certain amount of satisfaction. I would have a desire to do it, and I would take part in it and have a certain amount of pleasure. And I didn't go through a big process of trying to quit. I went through a number of different, I went through a celibacy period after a breakup, and I went almost 2 years. And after that, I did return to it a few times, but I just didn't find it satisfying. I found the relationship I had, that I had cultivated with myself vibrationally and in relationship to my own sexuality and self-pleasure, to have shifted. And when I went back to the old way, it was no longer satisfying. So I recognized that initially I went for a more selfish desire to learn. So that can be part of the path for sure. But then there was a recognition of simply what is better, not just better for me, what is better and more wholesome for others, because vibrationally I could feel a shift of me moving out of self-pleasure that came from desiring pleasure, but also love, but also like a tenderness for myself, also like a more of an exploration and curiosity, more of a practice and a consciousness. And when it was just porn, it was more of just like desire, pleasure, 5 cents, detached from love, much more disconnected, yeah? So in saying the highest dream, I have this encouraging nature to encourage, to push people towards their highest potential in that. Also recognizing, as Osho once talked about, sometimes we have to go through all of our desires before we actually seek the highest path, before we seek God. Before finding God, many people have to go for sex and go for power and go for all of these things, only to realize none of those things will bring fulfillment, yeah? So what is your dream? What is your dream for this life? A lot of this information that I'll be talking about is from the coaching system that I created. I have since created a new system, or I'm creating a new system that I operate with. So I offer this whole system through a number of worksheets, which is usually paired in with coaching, but I offer all these worksheets for free. If anybody wants to go through these, help you to clarify your dream, identify limiting beliefs, your energetic design, many of the other things we'll be talking about is all on there. So we have the dream, yeah? And when the dream is all encompassing, it activates our full potential. It asks that we move out of our comfort zone, take the hero's journey. It's all encompassing, meaning it's not just your occupation. It's not just what you do for work, not just vocation, profession. It's also like your family. It's also like, what are you going to do in your social life? I believe that everybody is an artist in some way. What are you going to create? Music? Is it your words? Is it the way you move through this world? What kind of art? What kind of medium? These are all capacities of self-expression. We all have a unique voice, meaning our literal voice in the vibrations that can come from our soul. And we have a unique offering to the world, yeah? So in as best as we can, we want to clarify this dream and build a vision out of it. And it's a little bit more of a masculine approach to have this much planning. And I will talk a little bit about a formula in a little bit here, which is a little bit more of an intuitive feminine approach. But I like the masculine and the feminine approach. It feels very balanced to me. For some people, when I talk about this next part, it might be a little too much. Like I talk a lot about planning and seeing your dream and having an idea of what you want to do and how much money you'll make, and going through this process of, for me, it'd be, I came with an idea of being a breath worker, and I hopped on an opportunity because I was being mentored by a breath worker, and he moved to Bali, and we were running some circles together. I was living out in Cloverdale and he was up in Whistler, and I would go help him out for circles. And because he was leaving, I saw there was a little bit of like an opening. I was running those circles with him. I was like, well, I could continue to run those circles and I could do what he was doing as a clinical breath worker, yeah? He moved really suddenly. He told me, and then he was gone in like a month or so. And I saw this window to go in. So without a business plan, without any business education, I just moved. I didn't know anyone other than 2 people I did a training with there. My hope was, for some reason, I thought he would offer me his clients, or the clients would just come to me that he was seeing because there's another breath worker and he was gone. That didn't happen. I might have got one person from him. And then the circles, the same thing. We were doing circles and all the people came from him because I didn't know people in Whistler and I didn't know how to contact those people. So I had this like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed idea. If you just follow your dreams, it would all just like line up. Like I read so many stories about, well, I moved to Bali and the rest is history. Everything was successful. It was very challenging for me. I didn't have a big nest egg. So I had this like intuition to follow my passion. But retrospectively, it would have been nice to plan. But these are the exact circumstance that I needed. So I can have this hindsight 2020 and still surrender to the knowing that, oh yeah, I need to go through this process. And years later, I'm not just a breath worker. My vision became much bigger than that. I term the work that I do holistic energy medicine, and it includes clinical breath work, body work, and energy work, as well as coaching systems. So it's holistic medicine and coaching, and it's a multidisciplinary approach that has teachings from my trainings with indigenous elders, from traditional Chinese medicine, from other holistic systems such as Polchek's holistic lifestyle coaching, and it's continuing to grow. And at each step, I get an understanding of like where I'm at in this creation, because when I was 20, I had no idea I could offer this type of work. It didn't really exist in some sense, at least not in my known mind. And the exact multidisciplinary, approach that I do is something that I've created. The way that I see clients and go through treatment planning and assessments, completely new. So I literally created a lot of this stuff so it wasn't available. And when you're creating in this way, coming back to this masculine approach, I have personally found it to be foundational and so important to have a kind of entrepreneurial mind in planning this, particularly since I'm in a Western culture where that is kind of the norm, yeah? I don't know how it would be if I was doing my business and my way of working in a different place. But the reason I talk about this as being more masculine is because that's the masculine's nature, to have the planning and structure in the mind, to see the goal, and the steps and the the kahunas to put in the energy to follow that path with discipline. But there's also the feminine, and I do always take, in as best as I can, a masculine and a feminine approach with flexibility, with a dynamism. That's the one. With a dynamic way of approaching things, so there's flexibility, strong and soft, yeah? So that's why I also have the formula. And that's why I'm not like, if there's a plan and then there's a set number of steps and goals and objectives and, the SMART goals with a specific timeline, I'm not rigid on following that path if my intuition guides me elsewhere. If I was more of a dominant masculine only approach, that would be what I would go for. I'm saying this because you have a unique energetic design. You have let's say, a comfortability in your masculine and your feminine. And for some individuals, having more of a masculine strategy is where you're going to be most optimally supported by your own design in the universe. And for some individuals, I realized this when I was coaching, because for a while there I was coming at it from a very masculine, have a goal, have a design, have a dream. And I worked with some very feminine clients, and they're like, that's not the way that I see the world. That's way too much planning. I want to follow my intuitions in the moment and live in this way. I'm like, oh, I need to adjust my way of understanding who this being is and how they operate instead of trying to project the way that I'm currently operating, yeah? So the importance of having the design, the plan is to have a system, a vision, which you can plan for. Because, okay, let's go personal here. I train in martial arts and qigong and yoga. I participate and practice in ecstatic dance. I teach and offer breath work. I'm learning music. I have a coaching business, a holistic energy medicine. I offer retreats and workshops, and I do a podcast and YouTube, and I'm a writer, and this continues to go on, yeah? So there is a certain sense that what do I do and when is intuitive. Part of this is because I'm a reflector and I'm very, it's called chameleon-like, yeah, shifty. I shift in with different moons and gates, and I'm very, my energetic system is highly variable depending on the day and what's going on with the planets. So I don't have a consistent energetic system, like say, I believe a manifest or a generator part of me. I could be wrong about that. I mostly know my own design and not the others as well at this point. So that reflects who I am. But even though I do, in as best as I can, listen to my intuition of what my energies are asking for, I still got to plan a life and to have clients and to have a successful business. It does ask that there is a certain structure. So if I want to adequately practice my multi-dimensionality as expressed by some of the things that I shared, it takes a lot of planning of scheduling to do all of those things. And I'm a single entrepreneur. Once there's a partner and children in this, that's going to take a lot of planning. So for me, the just follow the wind approach is not valid in effectiveness for me living my purpose. However, the formula that I'm about to share still applies to everyone. If you're dominant in your intuitive faculties and that's how you want to move through the world more in this feminine way, then this is an excellent formula for you. Even if you have a plan, there's a modification of this formula, not really a modification, but a way of applying it. So the formula, and I have entire podcasts on this if you want to further into this one. Step 1 is alignment. Alignment with what? Your highest path of love, Dharma, and excitement. You heard me say it before. Highest path of love. Once again, it's like the optimal decision that I talked about from Paul Chek. The optimal path of love is going to be what's best for you, your family, your community, and the earth. Same thing with Dharma. My understanding of Dharma, many people say purpose, and we can talk about my definitions of purpose and mission because they're different than many people's, I would say. Dharma is not purpose. I mean, we could talk about dharmic purpose for sure. But in my understanding of it, the way that I learned it, Dharma is when you do, to bring it down to earth, what's authentic to you. You being you authentically is you doing your Dharma. It's not some mission that you have to accomplish or do. If you're acting in accordance with who you are at the deepest level, who your soul is expressing itself as, that's you living your Dharma. My example would be animals. Animals live their Dharma. A cat acts like a cat. Done. Living their Dharma, fully realized in their catness. Yeah? They're always finding their highest expression and experiencing themselves in that. But they're living in accordance with their Dharma. And I feel like we can recognize that in why we see animals as being so beautiful. Because they're just them. Like children. There's no inauthenticity. They're not acting in conditioned ways because of fear-based programming. Perhaps they can, in some sense, fall victim to this due to our influence on them. But for the most part, just straight living Dharma, yeah? So that's my definition of Dharma, is when we're acting in accordance with our authenticity coming from the highest center or source. And then excitement. This formula in some sense was adopted and shifted from Bashar's teachings on his 4-step formula. I've applied it in a different way for my coaching system, but that's where its influence comes from. And he talks about the term excitement. And when I hear excitement, I hear something different that he talks about, which he further explains. He's not talking about like jumping up and down excited in each and every moment, because I don't believe we're meant to live that way. That's just not the polarities and the rhythms of life. We're meant to experience it all from highs to lows. But following the path of excitement, as I understand it from what I've learned from his teachings, is there's something fundamental to when we feel excitement, when we're following our passion, we could say. There's something that's activated within us that calibrates our energetic system vibrationally to be authentic. Because that's how our soul is feeling when it's feeling aligned, when it's doing what it wants to do, when it's following its path, and it doesn't have the fear causing hesitation. It doesn't have other vibrations coming in that would shift it out of its true core essence. And when an individual is acting from that place of excitement, Bashar talks about the energetic alignment, because when you're dharmically living, when you're in that highest path of excitement, when you're living from love, that's the pathway of least resistance. That's when things work out for you, always. Not as a belief system, because that's how you experience it, because that's how you're perceiving. Because when you're in that state of love, regardless of what's happening, external circumstance could be death or things that many other people may perceive as being negative. Maybe you even for a moment perceive that as non-preferable or negative. But if you shift back into that mode of excitement, into the highest path, you will then get a positive outcome because you're perceiving it positively. Your center is love, positivity, authenticity, connected to the soul, knowing that it needs to experience things, or it chooses to experience things as they have come, because everything is perfect at that highest level, yeah? So for that first step is alignment. Step number 2 is action. Acting on your excitement, acting on the highest path, acting from your dharmic center. Acting on what? Whatever you are called to do. Taking the next step forward And then I have three qualifiers for this one. I talk about Bashar's teaching on no insistence on the outcome, no, we could say attachment or hesitation, yeah? Very much connected all in the same realm. So we have this, let's call it an inspiration. I want to be a breath worker. I want to quit my job and I want to move to Squamish and I want to be a breath worker full time. This is what I'm going to do for my vocation. Okay, so I followed that. Then what happened? Well, I had a lot of expectations. I had insistence on how that would go. I had attachments to certain ways of living and being. And I didn't move without hesitation. I went into let's call it survival programs, fear-based conditioning. I lost my vibration, was no longer aligned with what I wanted, no longer could see it. Doubts and fears were all about me. And that prominently persisted for 6 months, and then the pandemic happened, and that had positives and negatives, but for the most part, that didn't help the circumstance out. So many of those fear-based beliefs maintained in my system for quite some time, clouding my capacity to be connected to my soul, to my center. And this is where all of my guidance comes in, from my imagination, my capacity to see beyond the problems, from my higher guides, my angels, my ancestors, from my soul. Trouble, yeah? So, second part of the formula, in as best as you can, acting without insistence, expectation, or attachment. Third aspect, cultivation. So this third principle, cultivation, is about how you keep your vibration. It's almost like coming back to the first principle. How are you going to maintain it? We talk about certain qualities of the energetic system that are most, we could say, conducive to the pathway of least resistance. And this is receptivity, positivity, and gratitude. Neutrality is in there too at a certain point, yeah? Because true positivity isn't just, I'm going to see everything positive and put up a kind of projection, or rose-colored glasses would be the phrase, yeah? I think true positivity is like this. You experience what you experience in neutrality, and then you choose to be positive. You're saying, I see this circumstance and as best as I can from a neutral standpoint, and then I choose to see the best in it. That for me is true positivity. Receptivity comes with gratitude. So if you have something, you can ask for it, and then you're in a state of wanting. You're in a state of desiring. I want this. I want my breathwork business to be money making, and I have all these desires, yeah? And I can be caught in the wanting of those desires, which will put my vibration into wanting something it doesn't have, which is not wholeness, not completeness. This is not the vibration of the soul, which has everything it needs within it and is not seeking outside of itself. So gratitude, receptivity primes us to be in a state of receiving life as it is. If I've been cultivated completely in an ideal state, I could completely receive everything that is happening to me with complete love. Now, this is we could call it an ideal. This is a state to aspire to, but that's the work of cultivation. The fourth step or principle is creation. So creation for me has two parts, is writing your story. Now you write your story in your thoughts, in your actions, but you also write your story, I guess this is a part of your thoughts, but write your story in terms of your belief structures, which are a little bit deeper than thoughts, I would say. And then while you're writing your story, while you're living your myth, the question is, where are you blocked? And this has three levels for me. This has the physical holding patterns in the system that prevent freedom of the physical. It has emotional and mental blocks. So these are limiting belief structures that cause or attract negative emotions. So as you're acting on your highest path, cultivating your mind in as best as you can, these limiting beliefs are going to come up. This is part of our life process. This is part of we could say, the work we came here to do. Phrase more positively, the experiences we choose to have to learn soul lessons. And that's the way. So I'll talk a little bit more about the formula, and then I'm going to come back to our dream and how this all applies, yeah? So as a being, if you're in the feminine mode of operating in the world, this is a really beautiful way to do it. You feel what you want. Connect deeply with your heart in each and every moment, or as often as you can, to stop and pause and be like, what's the highest path? What do I choose? As a deliberate creator of my life, what do I choose? How am I going to orient? And then what are the actions? Doesn't need to be the whole plan. I'm talking a little bit about plan in the beginning. Doesn't need to be the whole plan. I didn't need the whole plan to make that first step to move. I just had the inspiration. And if I would have been at that point and would be like, well, I need to make a business plan and do all these things, I probably wouldn't have done that by the time the pandemic hit. And then I would have been stuck in Cloverdale rather than Squamish and not doing what I loved because I didn't take that step, yeah? That's why it's always perfect. But taking the steps that you can, in as best as you can, taking as many steps as you can for as long as you can, taking it as far as you can, and then when you can't take it any further, find the next thing. And then if limiting beliefs arise, identify them, work with them. I've made a podcast and I have some good worksheets on identifying limiting beliefs and how to work with those, and we'll go into too much detail here. Now, if you're more of a masculine planner, this is where I talked about the masculine and feminine approach. You can have the plan. I make business plans now. I have yearly projections and 5-year and 10-year plans, but I still follow the formula. Because that plan that my material mind made based on its projections and understandings and wants and desires of the future in that moment is not the me in this moment. I've shifted timelines and parallel realities, and the whole chessboard of life has changed in so many different ways. So I need to calibrate each and every moment, because now, and now, is always the now. So the past and the future, not now. Now is now. So important to calibrate the now. Now. So this formula, very relevant for our dream creation and process, because yes, it's a formula for making decisions in the moment, but we can also expand it as our dream creation process, because alignment can be, as you're aligning, you can connect with a vision for your life. So the vision is like, let's talk about my own story. Aya Om Holistic Energy Medicine Clinic, alignment coaching system, and then I can build out the revenue and the people that I'll help and how this will support me and them and my future family. This is all part of alignment. And this is all part of something that I can align with. You could say even attune to, as something to vibrationally guide me, because the more that I can sketch out the mission connected with the dream, then I have the motivational mechanisms and the operating system for making optimal decisions, and also for organizing those decisions as to what comes next based on importance, because of my connection to that dream and my soul, which will begin more and more to speak through me based on my alignment, my internal alignment. Not necessarily my knowing of the vision and dream, though I do see a correlation, but my alignment and the dream work to sketch it out. Like I love to draw pictures of it. I draw a mandala, a circle, and then I draw like a little family. I draw the things that I want to do. I draw a sweat lodge. I draw all of these things connected with that, yeah? And then action is action. That one's less expandable. Cultivation, for me, cultivation is practice. It's yoga. It's qigong. It's breath work. It's all the things that I do to keep my state both cultivated towards receptivity and positivity, but resilient to negative emotions and stress in as best as I can. And then the fourth one, creating the story, and then identifying blockages. Well, that's a lot of the internal work. That's a lot of what my coaching system works with is what are the old belief systems, the conditioning, the disempowered story, and what is the empowered story? Where does that live in the body? What emotions is it connected to? Breath work, energy work. How can we clear those emotions and shift the energy? How can we optimize and harmonize the energy in the system so it's not holding chronic tensions of the past, which are from ways of being? I can speak to myself and my own body. The primary areas I hold tension in my body are due to decisions that I made based off of doubt and fear-based conditioning that led me to ways of being in the world that caused way too much stress in my system, physical, mental, energetic, that I'm still holding even as I walk further and further into my dream. This is my work to continue to clear that energy out, because it's both a manifestation of those old belief systems and it's a representation of the energies that I still hold from those. So when we have our dream, the dream is from the soul, and it's not going to carry that same weight. Now the work is to identify what the disempowered story is that brought us into the life that we were living. As most people know, I am still a registered dental hygienist. And the reason why I got into that in brevity is because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Because in my late teens, I was not connected with my soul and guidance very well. One of the things that I attached myself to is an idea of being a professional, because I was certainly not living that life. It seemed like something that my ego thought was valuable in society, that I could create myself as, that would be seen by myself and others to be good enough. I looked at becoming a dentist. I didn't have the confidence in myself to go through that schooling or the money to make that happen. So I became a dental hygienist, which seemed more manageable. And then we go on and on, yeah? So that initial decision, the belief structure that put me on that path, was one of doubt, fear, and no confidence in myself. Now, I invest in myself and my dreams because I have confidence in myself. I mean, there's a continual threshold and limitation. It's ever expanding. But I'm not stuck in those same belief systems. I have confidence in myself. I have doubts in myself still, but I move past them. Because when I know what I want, even if it's beyond my current understanding of what is possible, I'm willing to challenge it. I wasn't back then. Does this make sense? So we go from the conditioning, and then this is just one dimension of it, right? This is more vocational. But there's a number of different things that'll show up in the expanded picture of your dream. The expanded picture meaning for your family, for your friends, for the earth, I mentioned your art. There's something much more holistic there, and there's many different belief systems. I'm currently I'm currently working with my voice a lot and learning to sing, and I have a lot of conditioning around this that I'm working through. It's a wellspring of growth, we could say. And even in this episode, I'm becoming more and more conscious of my expression. For the first 30 or 40 minutes of this, it was like this. I was super excited to be talking about this, and it was less grounded, talking a little bit more from my mind and less rooted deeper down in my body, in my heart, etc. And I don't feel the need to redo this whole episode, though I do that sometimes if I do feel I'm ungrounded in that way. But most of my life, I haven't done a lot of expressing myself. For sure, not in the term of like singing. I didn't really start singing till I was like 28, and it was very little because even on my own up till recently, it's hard for me to make noise on my own because even when nobody's around, I have conditioning that tells me to shut up and tells me my voice isn't good. And I can feel the disharmony within me, meaning when I express and sing, I can feel old repressed anger and sadness and fear, and that's in my vibration. And as I create sound in that way, it's a lot for me. I mean, I do it every day now, and I regularly sing in front of people. So I'm not at the point where this is blocking me in a major way, but it's still there. There's still so many layers. As I mentioned, a wellspring of work. I've done a lot of work in asana and breath work and these kind of things, but the voice opened up doors where I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know all that was there. That's fun. So I'm taking singing lessons, and I'm setting lots of dates where I'll meet with somebody to sing with them. And these are points in which I'll like practice. Because when I sing in front of somebody, there's still a lot of nerve that comes up and many old stories. And the way I experience it, it's like I express out and my light and vibration shines out in all direction. And before, rewind a few years, it was like the conditioning is so much. The conditioning is so much that it's like pressure coming in from all sides. That's what the energy is. It's like my auric fields become dense all around with limiting beliefs and people saying negative things. I don't hear them in my mind, but that's what it feels like. And I tested this the other day by walking in a park and singing. And I could sing confidently when I'm on my own, once again, within my relative threshold. And then when people started to walk by, I would slowly come into my center, not come into my center, I would come out of my center, but my voice would become really quiet, and then it might start to crack, or it might start to just like, I would just lose the grounds of my voice in the depth of my belly and from my diaphragm and just move into my head. And I could see these patterns. So I was like, okay, keep your voice loud, keep your expression. And I realized I had to go all in order to do it, which meant if I was listening to like R&B, I had to dance, and that was my way of going all in and just owning it. And this would help me to come out, to shine that light in the darkness. So self-expression is a big one for me in the conditioning. So part of my disempowering story would include all of this in my empowering story. In my system, I get people to go into their shadow in many ways, old archetypes, values that are out of alignment, and then to write their disempowered story. And then the inverse of that. What are the values you want to enlist, the archetypes? And then I go into a big section about your energetic design. This includes an offering to look up your human design, your zodiac, and a number of other systems, your intimacy blueprints, these kinds of things. And then I always like to encourage people to go see professionals for this instead of just doing the work on their own. So I have a number of people that I refer them to for human design, and then for the zodiac readings and these kinds of things. Yeah. Also important for us to find our unique, like completely unique way of being, which is unlike any other person. Even if you can, have the same zodiac chart as somebody, you're going to be different because you've come here. You've incarnated for a very specific reason. And it's different than anybody else in the world. And your experience is completely different than everybody else's in the world. We're all a unique aspect of the one. So after an individual has done a lot of this work, then their opportunity is there to write their empowered story. And this is the written story that begins to scaffold the mind and the thinking process, which is then carried out in the work, the actual work of living this and continuing to author the thoughts in accordance with the new myth that we're creating to, let's say, expand beyond the limiting conditioning of what we've been given, which is the foundation for us of the essential or instrumental learnings of the soul for us to move forward. For example, coming back to my story about dental hygiene, it's no random event that was the career, as off kilter that it feels for many people, or it feels for me, or when people hear it, they go, I would have never guessed that in a million years. There are teachings there that I needed. Certain ways of being humble, of serving people, of taking care of people. A really important one is I want children. And I mean, I can still go into doubt and fear, but I've been through a few different processes on this, and it comes really clear for me when I'm in ceremony, when I'm in the highest moments of alignment, when I'm really connected to my soul. This feels like the path that feels most representative of my highest path. It feels like it's not a selfish thing. It's like the optimal decision for me is to have children because it's going to be best for me and everybody else involved. It feels like that kind of thing. And a lot of my selfishness doesn't desire that. And this is what I'm surrendering in the process. And when I say I want children, people are like, oh, but you're this and that about being young or whatever it is. I'm like, it doesn't mean it's going to happen anytime soon. It can happen years from now. I'm the type of person that I'll experience things in plant medicine or whatever it is, and they're like, these are my 20-year goals that I'm capturing the essence of. Yeah, and it doesn't even matter if they manifest as they did in the vision. That's just the excitement, the inspiration, the alignment that I feel connected to a vision, perhaps. But that's the silver cord that drives me forward and gives me the inspiration to act on these bigger goals without having the safety and security or the foundations behind them, but just the soul knowing that this is the next step. Yeah, because the biggest decisions I make aren't rational decisions in that sense of like, do all the checks and balances sort out so that this is a feasible thing. When I talk about making a holistic energy medicine school and having a family, I don't need to know how all the things are going to work out before I make the big decisions to do those things in as best as I can. As I mentioned, in my planning system, I'm very masculine and feminine of having both of those, but not requiring both of those to make the big decisions. The biggest decisions I make are based on intuition and inspiration. Yeah. And this is my understanding of myself as an energetic being, and it's very much represented in my charts to be this way. But I would offer that it is for most people, in that their higher mind is beyond the material mind. So it's beyond your capacity to see things from this current vantage point to which you're looking out at the world in your known reality. Because the higher mind and the future is the great mystery. In as much as anyone can know, there's, in my understanding, still an element of mystery, of unknowing. It's in the fabric of existence. So even though for example, I've mentioned having certain visions about myself in the future of business and family. There's still always an element like a wild card in there. And that's a beautiful thing, because I wouldn't want to know it all from the level of material mind. I mean, at the level of higher mind, perhaps, but from the level of material mind, that's not experientially the most satisfying thing, to know everything that's going to happen before it happens. That's not the fun of being human. I don't believe that's why I've incarnated to be a human. I think I love to dance with mystery. That's one of the greatest things about being alive, is the uncertainty of death at any corner, really, at any moment. So at a high level, there's a saying that I learned from one of my teachers, and he says to walk and breathe your prayer with every step and every breath. I said that a little bit wrong, but you get the essence. Yeah, with every step and breath, your prayer is in your heart. You carry it with you. Coming back to the formula, it's like, am I in alignment with it? And am I acting on it? Action being the breath. That's the life coming in. Every inspiration is creation manifesting into being. Every exhalation is a mini death. Every step you take, are you walking towards your dream or somebody else's? Are you walking towards your dream, or are you in the conditioning of the past? What rules are you playing by? This is another part of the system that I work with, of talking about not just the old limiting beliefs, but making a clear distinction about the old rules and the new rules. What do I mean here? I mean old rules as the conditioning and what society and culture is, like their fundamental values, their operating systems, their priorities, these kinds of things. And then I make a differentiation between these and new rules, and they're not actually new rules. These are universal principles. So I refer to a number of different systems that have articulated universal principles, such as Bashar, such as Arnold Patent, and the 7 Hermetic principles. What do I mean by this? So the 7 Hermetic principles, off the cuff, let's see if I can name them all. First one, all is one. All is one. Everything is mind. We talked about this in the beginning. Capital MIND. Everything is connected. The one is the all, and the all is the one. Number 2, as above, so below. We are microcosms of the macrocosm at different levels and scaffoldings of reality. Same energetic patterns and blueprints exist. Yeah. Number 3, everything. These might be out of order, by the way. Everything has polarity. This is fundamental yin and yang theory. Everything is actually what would come next is everything is vibration. Number 3, in terms of the ordering of these, everything is vibration. We talk a lot about vibration in this episode when I talked about your true core vibration, acting on aligning with your path of love, of excitement. This is all vibrational. Jumping ahead, everything is cause and effect. Everything has cause and effect. Meaning the vibration you put out is what you're getting back. A quick example on that one. I moved to Squamish, started my business. Wasn't going so well. I wanted it. Vibrationally, what I was offering was fear. I was in doubt and fear. That's what I was putting out. So that's what I started to get back. Remember how I said I read all these stories about people moving to Bali and these places and it all working out? Well, they maintained their vibration. I didn't. I had more to learn. I had more to clear. So my capacity to maintain my vibration, put out loving vibrations as a beacon of my light, as an offering of my actions towards my goals, looking beyond the doubts and the fears that come up and continuing to act on them, having a steady vibration, walking and breathing my prayer, that's cause and effect. It'll come back to me and I can trust that. This is all internal. I don't got to worry about the economy and the markets. I don't got to worry about any of that stuff, so long as I'm living in accordance with these universal principles. So I don't know what the old rules are for you, but this is part of the new rules, yeah? New rules that ain't so new. The other one is everything is rhythm. Everything has cycles and seasons. This is really important for me in business. I, in as best as I can, live with the seasons. I live in Canada, so I have 4 seasons. I don't know what it's like to live all year round in somewhere that's sunny or has like dry season, rain, wet season, but in Canada there's 4 seasons, and in the winter I rest. I stop a lot of my external activity, both in my business production, and move more into my, you could call the magician archetype of planning. I move a lot less. I meditate and breathe and come into stillness more. So I'm living in accordance with the seasons. I believe we got one more, right? All is one, all is above, so below. Everything's vibration, everything has polarity, everything has rhythm, everything has cause and effect, and everything has a masculine and a feminine polarity is the one I didn't mention. So this is a little bit what I was talking about with our planning and having a balance between these and how we go and knowing where we're more dominant in. This also relates to choosing partners. I heard this interesting statistic. I can't quote anybody on. I believe I heard it from Tim Ferriss, to be honest, but I don't know where he was getting his information from. In that people who are more masculine, say a male is masculine, they'll typically be with a more feminine, polarized individual. Whereas if an individual is more balanced in their masculine and feminine polarity, they'll typically find somebody who's also more balanced, and that's how they interact in at least more dominance showing up than that same pattern, which I tend to agree with. I'm much more balanced in my masculine and feminine polarities, and I often find partners who are quite similar in that way, yeah? 2 things I'd like to get to still. One is purpose and mission. I didn't give my definitions for these. Probably could have said these in the beginning. Probably been a little bit more relevant, but we got what we got and we're doing it. So in my definition, I see mission as what you do. It's the more masculine polarity, and purpose as your being. It's the more feminine polarity. So many people, I would say, use my definition of mission for purpose. So there's some confusion there, but I catch your language. Same, but different. Mission is what you do. So for me, I can define a mission in like a mission statement. Like, I empower individuals to optimize and harmonize their energy and live their dharma. My mission is to empower individuals to find mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual healing, and to live their dream through teaching them the internal arts and educating them or teaching them the holistic energy medicine school. These are kind of like articulations of a mission, which can have clear and actionable steps, yeah? Purpose for me is being. This is more related to the idea of dharma that I was talking about. So purpose and dharma, for me, very much connected, is like when you're rested and acting from your, not even acting, when you're aligned with your being. No action required. Your consciousness has a capacity, I would say, to rest at certain levels. You can rest in the ego and the conditioned patterns that have been programmed in the system, and you can act also from that place. Or you can rest in what I heard from Adyashanti as the ground of being. That's the universal consciousness or spirit. And then the many other levels of mind that we've chatted about. Yeah, we can rest at these different levels. When we are resting in our soul, then our whole purpose is fulfilled. No, nothing doing, no purpose, no mission, nothing needed. Ultimately, I would say, as an expression of your being, you will be living your mission, and it will unfold without the effort of doing. This comes into like the concept of Wu Wei. It's a Taoist concept of non-doing or non-governing, and it's a way of being in the world and acting, but not from a place of doership. And I think there's levels to this teaching. The first is that many people just do in life. From the moment they were born, they received a certain amount of conditioning, which built conditioned behaviors, control patterns, reflexive actions. And there's a certain momentum that's created from that base conditioning of their early childhood and those reflexive patterns that drives their desires, their actions, and they live in those cycles and patterns. Now, when an individual, let's say, goes on the spiritual path, they may begin to meditate or still themselves. And this puts a temporary hiatus on the desire seeking based on the conditioning to give enough space, let's say, to observe the conditioning with a level of detachment so it's not reflexive, so there's greater opportunity to respond to what's arising in the moment internally, and then as it eventually comes into actions, lifestyle, and these kinds of things. This is cultivation of being. Cultivation of being is, I would say, best done from a place of non-doing. In this way, I'm using it as not doing anything other than sitting. So keeping things really simple. Sitting, standing, lying, basic meditation posture. Yoga, yes. Qigong, yes. More developed in meditation, non-doing, still. Outside, still. Inside, still. Just being. Through being, the practice of being, with enough cultivation in being, of stillness, non-doing, an individual begins to, as I mentioned, ground themselves in their being, and then they can do things from that center. It's not the same center, as mentioned before, with the conditioned reflexes, program pattern behaviors, these kinds of things. It's a new center with more capacity to respond and act from source, dharmically, from its center, in this way. This is the essence of non-doing. This is Wu Wei. So an individual who has cultivated this quality or characteristic has enough rooting in their own being that they can act from this, which is in some sense like a mild variant of an enlightened being, of being able to have a liberated choice in the moment, perhaps all the way to enlightened being, but a certain level of cultivation of being as a entry point into this idea of Wu Wei, yeah? So that's my differentiation between mission and purpose. So the last piece I want to talk about today is the future and our guidance. So the dream is a future projection. And in the way that I've been taught to pray by many of my teachers, pray in the way of like manifestation and getting what I want is, one, to qualify your prayer, that is not coming from the ego, it's coming from the soul. Two, to pray, be clear on what you want. Be clear on why you want it, which is a vibrational thing, yeah? The why is like you feel it, yeah? You feel the desire. Like, I had one of the most pure thoughts I ever did think. I thought about my children's children, and then I would be a grandfather. Now, sometimes I have a desire for travel, and a lot of this can come from just me wanting to experience something. So the vibration of that thought is mostly coming from a selfish desire. But the desire to have children's children and the love therein, there's a whole level of love and purity in that thought. That why is vibrationally recognized within my system. This is part of the prayer of that thought. Every moment we're praying, yeah? So in that moment, when I think about my children's children, I'm aligning with that. It's a future. It's a possible future among many other futures, parallel futures even, that are happening, well, ultimately in the linear time frame perspective in the future, but non-linear, it's happening right now, concurrently, all futures as one. I mean, all things as one in the present. So it's not actually a future in that ultimate reality. And that's the way to interact with it, as it's already happened. So that's why it's important to have clarity. This is why it's important to go through a dream development and defining and refining, because our dreams can change all the time. You know, a few years ago, I was entertaining, well, I could go down this pathway in life and I could study with this spiritual tradition and I would look for these different things in a partner. And then I had a number of intimate experiences with different partners and I walked down a number of those medicine paths and I had a lot of experiences and now I have a lot more clarity on what I want. And more that dream is refining and it's becoming more defined. It's not all the things. It's pretty well one thing with less variation, yeah? So I'm having more and more connection with my soul, and my vision, my will is aligning with what we could call divine will, higher will, soul's mind, yeah? So there's a clarity there, coming back to the way of praying. There's a clarity of that, and if I want to pray, it's not asking for God, a power outside of me, to give this to me. It's me aligning with that prayer and taking actions on it. The formula. Here's my alignment. This is what I want. Remember, not so much about visualizing it, though you can do a visualization practice. It's the why. What's the why? It's the vibration. 7 Hermetic principles. What I'm putting out is what I'm putting back in. It's alignment with it. It's aligned because it's coming from my soul and higher mind, and as best as I can, that's what I feel as true. So long as I take actions in accordance with that dream, I don't need insistence on how it will go. I could go down the path a few years and maybe I feel like I'm abandoning that whole path, but that could be part of it. That's the no insistence, yeah? Keeping myself cultivated and then recognizing doubts and limiting beliefs I mentioned earlier. I can still go into doubt and fears about having children. There's still an aspects of my ego that fears relationship, that fears intimacy, that fears losing my freedom, that fears all these kinds of things. But I'm willing to see them because, one, most importantly, my soul is guiding me to. There's a deeper knowing than my beliefs at that level of mind that is the spiritual impulse towards growth. And that's what's actually guiding me forward. So having ideas, thoughts, like my children's children, and then holding that. So like, for example, a year ago, I knew I wanted children because I had felt what I had felt now, but I had entertained for much longer time my doubts and my fears, and I had so much more selfish desire within me. So less and less during my 24 waking hours in my 7-day-a-week living life did I think about those things. Now it's so confirmed in me that my elder actually just gave me a necklace at Sweat Lodge with my passed on teacher Vern Shanos. It's got a little picture of him, and then it's got another little like metal image, like embroidered, I don't know the term, glazed. It's got a picture on a piece of metal that's like a blind person could feel it. It's tactile. You know the word. Speak it out. Through space-time. No future. It's everything now. You know what I mean. Okay, so there's a picture, and it's a man with a child on his shoulders. And this is the first Sweat Lodge that I made a real committed prayer for my children. I thought about it and prayed about it in my mind, but I sang a song for my future children. And then I got a necklace about that. And now I get to wear this necklace on a regular basis, which is a reminder, which is part of my alignment, which is part of what is fueling my why, my vibration, and my actions. And then the rest is history. So having, okay, no, before I move on again, the prayer manifestation ritual, having a clear why and taking action, it's the whole formula. That's the formula right there. Connect with it, action on it, receptivity so it can come to you, and then if anything's in the way, clear them. Continue to do that, yeah? It's so simple. It's so simple. Okay, as we do, I'm going to review what I chatted about. And this was a very disjointed episode, so I apologize. I wrote down, as I usually do, some sense of scaffolding, and I did not follow it. And as I mentioned, I got super excited in the beginning. Now I'm a little bit more chilled out. There were an hour and 20 minutes into this. So I'm going to review what we talked about. Obviously not in the order, because I don't know which order I actually did it in. And I may add pieces in here, so this isn't a proper conclusion. So I spoke about the importance of the dream. Not even just the dream, but the importance of having a vision. Like, okay, scratch that. So what we talked about today was creating from the dream realm. This material realm, some people affectionate or not so affectionately call it the Matrix, is a malleable reality. You are a malleable reality. I mean that in the most positive ways. You're a malleable reality. No, you're a malleable reality. So you're changeable. Your thoughts, your belief systems, your internal actions and relationships to yourself can shift in profound ways the external reality. We can modify the dream. So if the dream that you're living is not the preferable one, if you're not the hero of your story, if you're not on the hero's journey, if you're not the center of your myth, then who is? And who's going to take control? Who's going to take charge of all that? Nobody other than you. So what is your dream? And how much time have you taken to build this dream? Now, once again, I mentioned we can just follow the formula. That's enough. But it's so helpful. To the people that I have helped, I have found it so helpful, including, most importantly, myself. This is why I speak to it with confidence, of taking time to create the dream, to cultivate it, to develop it, to refine it, to define it. It can be scary to define it. It can take a lot because there's a lot of pressure on it. Like when you're in the, for example, in the dating world, it's like, okay, we can try this and try this, but when it comes time to marry somebody and be with them for the rest of your life, there's a lot more pressure. It's the same way with your dream. But then when you know and you're ready to commit. I was afraid of commitment for most of my life. Now I'm at the point where I'm looking. No, I shouldn't have said looking, because you never want to seek, right? That would completely go against all the teachings I just talked about. Jeez Louise. I am open to the things that can come into my life that I can commit to. I'm totally looking for them. I mean, I'm looking in a good way to the things that I can commit to. Like I offered myself up to Sundance for myself first, but also for my family, my future family, and for my father and my mother and my grandmothers and my nieces and my nephews and my sister and my brother-in-law and my cousins and my ancestors and all my relations. But I'm looking for the things that I can commit to. A partner who wants to raise children. These kinds of things. So it's like there's a whole new level that opens up when you're at that level of commitment, yeah? And that's what it's like with the dream. There's a certain level of certainty that you need within you You need to know yourself. You need to be connected with your soul. Otherwise, you're going to just chase your desires from your ego, yeah? But that's all part of the process too. As I talked about earlier with the Osho quote, or the Osho teaching, is sometimes you got to go through all the desires in order to get to God. And it might be the last thing on your list. But if you actually go through it, it's better than bypassing it and trying to get to the end, even though you haven't actually fulfilled and satisfied all those lesser desires, because those might actually be holding you back from truly surrendering and going all in towards God. Yeah, so there's a little bit of a rationale between the path of tantric pursuit of the lower desires, even though they are recognized for good reason as lower, and through the process of honoring those desires can we come into true direct wisdom, direct knowing of God, of our path, because we've walked it every step, and we actually become self-realized in that way because we have realized ourselves from high to low and done all the things under the sun. Yeah, so when we have this highest vision, we've scaffolded it out in some way. Enough to just take a few steps, follow that formula. The formula being align with your highest path of love, excitement, and dharma. Act on it to the best of your abilities for as long as you can, without insistence, without hesitation, like you're dancing. Just move and continue to move. This is the pathway of least resistance, releasing attachment. Cultivate yourself, your mind, to be receptive, equanimous, positive. These are beautiful qualities of mind to move through life in. And create your story. Create your story from the highest path, from the highest perspective. And observe limiting beliefs, blockages, mentally, emotionally, physically. And clear them so that you can continue to walk forward, dance, leap, crawl, hop, step, jump to the top of your mat. Inhale, arms up in the air. Oh, this isn't yoga. Keep moving forward on your dream, yeah? And as best as you can, qualify your dream. Something you're good at, something you love, what the world needs, what you're paid for. Make the optimal decisions that is not just best for you selfishly, but best for your family, best for your friends, best for the earth. Act in accordance with your energetic design, your individual blueprint, your soul's blueprint. Human design, zodiac, these sorts of things, yeah? Get really clear on your old story, the disempowered story, the conditioning, the limiting beliefs that hold you back from realizing and walking towards your highest path without hesitation. And then rewrite that story, your most empowered story, and take action on it. Action in accordance with universal principles of creation. All is one. As above, so below. Everything is vibration. Everything has polarity. Everything has rhythm, cause and effect, masculine and feminine. As you do this, you'll become more and more connected with your guidance. Because you're listening, you're tuning into yourself. So you'll listen to the deeper parts of you. This is not just your material mind, but your higher mind, your imagination, your guides, the guardians, the angels, your ancestors, your soul, oversoul. The Great Spirit will speak through you. Then this isn't just about your life, though you're the center of it in some sense, but it's not just your life. This is not just your body, it's God's body. Not just your will, God's will. This is the highest path, yeah? It's not selfish to pursue this path. Your soul is guiding you towards whatever that life is. For a long time in my spiritual journey, I judged myself for wanting children and for wanting many things that I had desired because it felt selfish, because of some of the conditioning I had chosen to take in that challenged me in many ways about what it means to be a spiritual person. I held a higher position of authority to a renunciate and someone who had gone beyond family and these kinds of things and pursued the spiritual path as if that was better. But it's not about what is better. It's what is the highest path for me. And that's not my path as a renunciate. In the yogic terminology, I'm a householder. There's a whole different set of teachings that are more suitable for me. And I'm also not just taking this system by the spoonful. Remember, never take those spoonfuls, even if it's good soup. Always know yourself and eat your own soup, so to speak. So what guides me? What guides me is my soul, my inspiration, my children's children, my future partner. And this is my organizing principle of actions and behaviors. This is my motivational mechanism. I went through a rough 6 months 6 months ago. The last 6 months have been rough. What pulled me through? This is why it's so undeniable for me wanting children. That's what pulled me through. When things got really hard, I needed to pull from a motivational source that wasn't just within me and my own selfish ways of touching my pleasure buttons and numbing myself with food and all of these things. I needed something that could lift me up from within me. And the idea of my children's children was one of the motivational mechanisms that enlisted enough inspiration for me to change. I don't know why. I still have the doubts and the fears, as I mentioned, but yet it still can guide me forward. And as I continue to connect with it, all my doubts and fears dissolve away. Same way with relationships and desire for love, though I'm not so much focusing on that process as much as I am children, is the same thing. The more I focus on the love that was guiding me towards a future partner, all those doubts and fears and relationships dissolve away. And sure, they'll still come up. They'll still continue to come up in relationship, I'm sure. I don't want to put that belief system there, so maybe it won't. But if it is, that's all part of my human experience and learning, and I embrace it all. That's the importance of the dream and the qualification of the optimal decision. It's not even our dream necessarily, as mentioning. Divine will is a higher power. It's like the more I get into my dharma, it's not about me. It is about me because I'm in the center of it all and I'm the prime actor, and yet I'm in service to the all, and the all is so much bigger than me. So in as much as it is all about me, it's not about me at all. I'm just playing my part like a cog. And I don't mean that in an unaffectionate way. I mean that in a way that I'm an instrumental piece of the universe, however small that I am. Just like the sloth doing its thing. Can't always tell it how everything works together. You wouldn't think that we need all the animals in all the ways that they are. There's a lot of really funny and funky animals out there. But we do, because that's the way it is. No sense in arguing it the way it is. We need every single interconnected piece to be connected in the way we are to make the all. And the all is the one, and the one is the all. I thank you all for listening to this episode. Once again, I apologize for the disjointedness of it. I hope my little rhapsody at the end has pulled it together and created some sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in your mind and heart. Deep love and encouragement to you and your sacred path in this life. As I mentioned, a lot of the information here is from my coaching system that I created. It's a number of worksheets that could be a self-guided process, though it's often done with coaching. As I mentioned, I created a new system, so less using this one, so I've offered everything out for free. If anybody wants it, I can offer it as a Google Drive link, and you can have all these worksheets and work through them. If you need any other support, I have many other podcasts of a similar vein discussing the formulas and many different aspects of dream creation and holistic management of our life and energy. Thank you so much once again. And one more piece about giving more gratitude to Paul Chek for being such a great mentor in this way, and all the teachings that he so generously offers. His holistic lifestyle coaching systems have been a foundational piece in my learning and building of all this, and especially too in a lot of the releasing of conditioning from, let's call it, more traditional spiritual systems, and aligning more and more with the soul, the path of listening to my soul and being empowered to do so. Yeah, and that's what it's all about. It's about empowering the sovereign choice and the clear guidance that is always coming through from our guides and from our soul, and choosing to listen to that over the the voices in our head, the pressure, for example, that I sometimes feel when I sing, of dark energy and density all around me, and continuing to shine the light out, and knowing and trusting from that place that everything's sorted out as it's already been done. And it's just about aligning to it, saying yes to what we've already co-signed to at a higher level, walking forward, acting on it like we're dancing, crawling, moving, without hesitation or expectation or insistence. Yeah, that's the way. All my relations.